Hello there, dear friends, and welcome once again to the Relaxed Fantasy Review. Today, we're going to be talking about a subclass of the Cleric, straight out of Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And this one caused quite a stir when it came out, because it was a very, very different kind of Cleric. The Peace Domain Cleric. A lot of people hold this Cleric as one of the greatest Clerics in the game. I think that they bring a whole new meaning of what it is to be a cleric. So many clerics are focused on, doing damage in special ways, or in healing and supporting in a very, very specific kind of way. Every cleric knows Bless, every cleric knows Aid, every cleric knows Healing Word, every cleric knows Revivify. But the Peace Domain Cleric does things a little bit differently. Let me show you how. Starting right away at first level, when you choose the subclass, you get the expanded spell list. These are spells that are always prepared for you, they don't count against your spells known, so this beefs up the spell list. Peace Domain has a lot of utility in theirs. They've got Aid, they've got Greater Restoration, they've got Sending, they've got Telepathic Bond, they've got some really interesting ones in here, a lot of which don't usually appear on the cleric's list. And I think that it is well worth mentioning that this utility that is in here, while it's not combat focused really, it's still some really good out of combat stuff. I say 7 out of 10 for it. There's a few duds in there. Then you also, at level 1, get the Implement of Peace. Most cleric subclasses will get armor proficiency, weapons proficiency. This one gets a skill. It gets insight, performance, or persuasion. These are good skills. There's nothing wrong with them. It just doesn't quite stack up to the other cleric subclasses. I say 7 out of 10 for this particular piece. And then finally, at level 1, you also get the Emboldening Bond. This is a really cool power. You designate a number of creatures equal to your proficiency bonus. So at the beginning it's just 2, you and one other, or just 2 individuals, but it goes up to cover the entire party over the game. And it has the effect that is similar to the Bless spell, where they get to add a d4 once per turn to an attack, ability check, or a saving throw. And this lasts for 10 minutes. You do it as an action, and the trick is that instead of being just independent, the creatures get this bond when they remain within 30 feet of each other. So the Peace Domain Cleric really gets a lot of bang for their buck when they keep the party close, and they keep them together working as a team. This stacks with the Bless effect as well, so you can actually get a nice 2d4 buff to these powers when you're in combat, and this is a good 9 out of 10 ability. We keep going when we get to the Channel Divinity at level 2, the Balm of Peace. You use your Channel Divinity and then immediately move your movement speed. It's not clear in the text whether you can dash at the same time or whatever, but I would personally rule that you could if you wanted to spend, a bonus action dashing or something like that, if you could. But the point is that you do this and you move. And when you move, you get to move past allies. Every ally you move within 5 feet of gets healing, 2d6 plus your wisdom mod. And you can do this to the entire party if you can manage to kind of move through the battlefield and tag everyone. This works well with Emboldening Bond because you want everyone to be close together, and this is just an auto everyone gets a bit of healing effect. You can only do it once per Channel Divinity per party member, so you can't run circles around someone and heal them more than once, but still, it makes Healing Word look a little bit lackluster in its effectiveness because you use your Channel Divinity and the whole party gets it. You don't usually see that until later levels. I say this is a 9 out of 10 power for sure. Now, at level 6, you get Protective Bond. Creatures that have Emboldening Bond on them, when they're within that range, when they're 30 feet from each other, if a creature takes damage, one of the other creatures that's bonded to it can use their reaction to teleport in front of that creature and take the damage for them. This is actually a really cool idea if a squishy, like a wizard or someone, or I guess you yourself, the Peace Domain Cleric who's stuck in their medium armor, is about to take a hit, and the barbarians nearby and they're raging, they can just pop right in front of you and take the hit for you. That is really cool. Not only does it keep the squishier party members safe, it allows the tank to tank better. It also has some cool ideas when it comes to teleportation, because it doesn't specify you have to take damage from an enemy. It can come from a trap, it could be self-inflicted. If one person can get across a chasm and other people can't, if you're bonded together, you could just stab yourself or punch yourself for a couple points of damage, and then the other person can teleport over. I mean, it's interesting, but it's one of those things that when a power gives you these weird options to change how the game works, I say it's good. And even if you just play it as intended, where, you know, the tank is taking most of the damage, that's still amazing. And another good reason why you should stay within the range of the bonds. So this is 10 out of 10. This is great. Then at level 8, you get potent spell casting. I'm not a big fan of this particular power. A lot of clerics get it. It just says you add your wisdom modifier to your cantrips. Your cantrips, you know, being Sacred Flame or Toll the Dead. I mean, the cantrips are fine, but you're only gonna, you know, to the 2d8s or 2d12 that you're doing with these cantrips, you're going to be adding 3 or 4 damage, and that's when you use them. Cantrips aren't the thing that, you know, most clerics are going to use to fight. I suppose the Peace Domain might, but all in all, I think this is a bit of a wasted ability. I personally throw it in the 5 out of 10 stock and just leave it alone. Then finally, at level 17, you get the real meat here, and that is Expansive Bond. The emboldening and the protective bond powers said that you had to be within 30 feet of each other. Now that range is expanded to 60 feet. And the protective bond that you can teleport in the way, and now that's a 60-foot teleport. You can jump in the way to take the damage. You have resistance to the damage always. So even the wizard could jump in front of a non-raging barbarian, or I guess a paladin or a fighter who's about to take a hit, and the wizard will take half damage because he did so. The cleric could do the same thing. Anyone can jump in and just automatically get resistance to the damage, so you'll be using this bond a lot more, and its widened range means that you aren't clustered together quite as much. So this is a 10 out of 10 capstone. It takes everything that was good about the Peace Domain and just amplifies it to the late game levels of power that you want. So 10 out of 10 there. And honestly, I think that's the real story of the Peace Domain Cleric. They have a cool power at the start, and then that power gets amped up over time. Emboldening bond, protective bond, expansive bond. This is the story of the Peace Domain Cleric, and it's a good power, don't get me wrong. The other stuff, you know, the skill proficiency instead of armor and weapons, the spell list that's mostly utility and doesn't really help you out a whole lot in combat, the potent spell casting that I really don't like. These are the things that they feel like features that just are ribbon features or hit or miss. It's the bond that sells this cleric. The overall score for this cleric is an 8 out of 10, but the bond features are 9s and 10s. If you're looking for some new way to keep the party together, not split the party up, and really empower them and reward them, it almost feels like you're conditioning them. But you're rewarding your party for sticking together and fighting together and defending each other, and that really feels cleric-y. So even though the score is 8 out of 10 overall, I would say that if you're a cleric who's frustrated with the party not really sticking together and having to run around and keep everyone alive, the Peace Domain Cleric might actually be for you, because you will be able to reward your party with some amazing powers when they stick together. This has been the Relaxed Fantasy Review. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe down below, and keep your eyes peeled for more subclass reviews coming down the line soon. Have a good one, my friends.